Hey everybody, Alex here, and welcome to another video. The monthly recap for February 2021. And what a month it's been. It's been a little kooky to say the least. And I don't know. I was born in February. It's a very short month, and to top it all off, I was born on February 29th. So if that doesn't explain a lot, I don't know what does. But I tend to get really in a funk around my birthday, just for whatever reason. Ever since I was a kid, you can only take so many "oh, how old are you" jokes before it just gets really old and dumb. And last year was a leap year, and it was just before all this wackiness happened. But it was also the first birthday I had without my mom, which is weird, considering it's one of those things where, as somebody who really just doesn't care for his birthday, as it were, like I used to joke with her, I'd be like, "What are we doing for my birthday?" And because it was more so, I always told my parents this. I said it's more so for you guys. Like, gifts and stuff are great, celebration and all that stuff, but I don't know. It's very different when your day only exists every 4 years, so it's kind of strange to talk about. Well, not strange to talk about, just strange to put into perspective unless you're a leap kid yourself, I think. And, like I actually know three leap kid people. And it's like a thing every year. It's like, I just arbitrarily pick a day. I always say whatever's the closest to the weekend is what it is. And last year was a Friday, and this year it's technically Sunday, I guess. And I'm doing this just before that. But what else happened this month? We had a Nintendo Direct finally, and I have to say, I went in with no expectations, and I came out with no expectations. Honestly, I feel like they blew their load within like the first 5 minutes. It was like the whole thing with Pyra and Mithra was great. Skyward Sword, I actually enjoyed that game back when it was on the Wii. The last boss fight, I remember like literally almost snapping my wrist because I was just doing this the whole time. Because if you played it, there's a certain motion you have to do something that's conducive to the boss fight, and it was just not registering. Kind of happy to see that they're doing that whole Metal Gear Revengeance thing where you can use the right stick in kind of like a twin stick shootery way to use the swipe. So we'll do that. I was lucky enough to get a pre-order in on those crazy, awesome looking Joy-Cons. So I'm looking forward to that in July, which is sad and dumb because I don't have stick drift, but I have one of the older left Joy-Cons that likes to forget it has a signal every once in a while. So we got that going on. But the rest of the Direct, honestly, like the Mario Golf game looked okay, but I don't know, just some of these titles, I don't know who they're marketing towards. Like, I know I'm not the target audience. I'm clearly not. But it's just some of it, I'm just like, I don't get it. They mentioned Saga Frontier, which I'm excited for, because I'm old. They mentioned Legend of Mana, which I'm excited for because I've never played it. I have it on the PS1, and now I can play it on the Switch, so awesome there. And then they mention a Star Wars third-person shooting. I presume it's going to be a Battle Royale game, because what isn't? And there's literally nothing to go with it other than a title, so good fucking job to whoever decided to put that up there. That was really it. Not so much, I guess you could say, like, what I knew about is what I knew about, and I was excited for it. But, other than that, could live with it, could live without it. From Blizzard, they're going to be doing a remaster of Diablo 2. I'm actually really excited about that. And then they did this Blizzard arcade thing with 3 games, and maybe I'm just being a bitch. 3 games? Like, that's it? I could have sworn they did something else. I don't know. It's been a while, but was it Lost Vikings, Rock and Roll Racing, and Blackthorn, which I think is more of a like a flashback, like platformer style game. So I don't know how that's arcade oriented. I think that's what it is. I actually don't remember, but we got that going on. But yeah, other than that, it's just like it's work, it's stuff. Finally put up that Kickstarter video that I've been talking about, and I watched it back a few times, and honestly, I'm not really happy with it. It just seemed kind of like rambling, even though I had notes. Uh, Obviously, I'm not going to redo it. It's already up. It's done. I took long enough, leave well enough alone. But it's kind of an update to that. The Sharon No Cooney thing. They figured out a system where you could actually put in your PayPal and they would refund you. And it is refunded through Tokyo Otaku Mode. So I'm actually confused as to who is still fronting published. I don't know. But that's up. But I guess more so, like, in terms of just other stuff going on, like, we had a leak in the bathroom, so that was great. It's over, but we have exposed sheetrock, so that's a good time. But I've been watching Wanda Vision with almost said the girlfriend again, with the fiance. And, it's kind of funny. One of my coworkers, I had mentioned it, and he wasn't too hot on it. And I'm kind of like this is that silly campiness that I'm all about. Even though I'm not the biggest Scarlet Witch fan, I'm not the biggest Vision fan. And the movies, they were great, but in the comics, I was like, eh. But I like the whole premise. I think it's fun. I think it's a little bit different. And I think it kind of sums up the extent that her powers can go to, which is really awesome. I'm not going to spoil it. But the one thing I will point out, and this is something I noticed with all these Disney Plus shows, they can't figure out how long these episodes are. It's like they're 30 minutes and they're 40 minutes and they're 29 minutes. And then in the case of this show, the credits are like 5 minutes long. So if you have a 32-minute episode, it's really only 27 minutes. It's very misleading. But it's not even because it's rich. If you don't know what it is, it's essentially, for whatever reason, the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, and Vision are in a sitcom. I'm not gonna say why, but it's actually kind of cool the way they do it. But it's interesting. It's like superheroes trying to do like thing. But if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you do get a taste of that. 1950s sitcoms, you watch like I Love Lucy, I Dream of Jeannie, all that stuff. You'll definitely pick up vibes from that. So to that extent, it's really fun. And it kind of sums up what Wanda and everybody kind of thought of a family looked like back then. And there's a lot of stuff I could relate to within the show, or flashbacks. The latest episode I watched, which isn't the last one, it kind of hints at it wasn't a sitcom, but it was like a comedy show. I don't want to spoil it, but it's one of those things where you see it, you go, oh yes, and you just enjoy it. Other than that, let's see, what else do I have written down here? Yeah, I keep looking down because I'm actually doing this at lunch again. Games. So this month, I don't know what it is. I finished a few games, actually. I finished Ys 9. And I didn't like it. I kind of said that in the pickup video. I didn't really elaborate on it, but I wasn't the biggest fan of Ys 8. And it wasn't because of the translation or any of that stuff. The combat was great, but it wasn't difficult. It wasn't challenging. The music was awesome. It looked okay. This game is kind of more the same. I was jokingly calling it Easelvania because of the whole concept. I mean, Adol's known as the Crimson King in this, which is kind of cool. But, you're in a city, and it's mostly empty, and all the terrains are interior, for the most part. They're mostly interior. And I would honestly say the most difficult enemy of the game is the fucking camera. Because you're in so many different corridors, the camera just does not want to cooperate. The auto lock, or Z-targeting, whatever the hell you want to call it, is horrible. I stopped using it. Like, there's literally one boss. Typically this happens in games where you're fighting something bigger than you get underneath them, the camera just does this. It was doing this, and I was, like, on the other side of the room. It could not process where it wanted to go. And I don't know if anybody else had this problem, but and maybe this is just me being a little argumentative, but everybody who's been singing praise about this game, I'm sorry, I don't get it. It's a fine game, but it's below the expectations I had set for an Ys game, if that makes any sense. I don't like the idea of using side quests to kind of pad it out. Like, this took me 30 hours, this could have been 20, and it could have been 20 of all killer. The bosses are HP sponges. The attacking was, well, the special attacks and everything else are always fine, and the combat's always very energetic, but it felt so button mashy. And that comes from somebody who's played a lot of these games where in action RPGs and Muso style games, so trust me, when I say mashy, I mean mashy. I felt like there was no strategy. While with Ys 8, I felt like I had to strategize and dodge around a bit. This one, not so much. It's kind of just hit. I think it's square, 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 hit R1, get the flash card, and just, square, 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 over and over again. If there is an Ys 10, I'll definitely pick that up day one. Like, I'm not swearing off the series or anything, but I don't know. Like, I don't even remember how this reviewed when it came out in Japan all that time ago. I think people were kind of lukewarm on it. I'm not really sure. But everybody over here seems to think it's amazing. But I also didn't really care for Ys 8. But at least Ys 8 had more interesting characters. I mean, Donna is amazing. The Monstroms in this, to me, is just an excuse to do a fancy name and put people in silly costumes. So not really feeling it. Now this is where it gets interesting, because I realize it's just looking at what I have here, because I'm working on the thumbnail. I have been on a big female protagonist kick this month. So, well, I take that back a little bit. I finished Clannad, the acclaimed visual novel. You play a protagonist, a male protagonist, presumably. And all the main characters in this game are mostly female, except for one person, Sunahara. So, this game, how am I going to put this, is worth all the street cred it's gotten as a visual novel over the years. I've never watched the anime. I watched the Robotics Notes anime, and I hated it. And now I have the game, and I feel like I'm going to enjoy the visual novel more, only because the show kind of picks whether it's canon or not. I don't actually know. But it kind of just puts you on one route and you have no experimentation. The Steins Gate movie, the sequel movie, not Zero, but like the, I forgot the name of it, but that was great. But you have to have played the games to get it. Anyway, so with this game, it's basically a slice of life. You play this character who has troubles at home with his dad. And basically, it's his everyday life in high school as a delinquent. And I have to say, he's the most behaved delinquent I've ever heard of. He just goes to school late. He doesn't break anything. He's not like Kenkabancho or anything like that. But he's very standoffish, and he has a lot of difficulty connecting with people because he has no family life, as it were. And that's a big theme that I've realized playing this game. But I want to be honest, I didn't play all the routes. I only played 2, one of which I got the neutral ending, then I went back and I got the real one. And I'm not going to say who. Actually, I can't say who. Fuko and Nagasi. Shit, I can't pronounce it. The one with the umbrella on the cover. The main girl. Excuse me. And then there's another one with a sequel, which I was going to do her path, but I think her name was Tomoyama. I was going to do her path afterwards. I saved where it kind of deviates, but I'll be honest, after these 2 paths, I had enough. And it wasn't even because it was written poorly or the characters were annoying or anything like that. Emotionally, it was just too much. Like, I'm serious. I have gotten choked up at games before, but not like 1-2 punch left right hook. Like, it was, man, visual novels are so hard to talk about, but it was just a lot. It was a lot to take in. And it's one of those things where, in the case of one of the characters, there was such a twist that I did not see coming. I kind of thought this was where it was going to go, but then it didn't go there and actually went in a different direction. And then I was like, oh, like kind of taken aback. And then it kept going. And arguably one of these paths went a little long in the tooth, but when you get to the end part of it, you kind of understand why. And it's sad. It's really sad. And you feel for these characters because, as I say, one of the biggest themes behind this game is family. And you see how all these characters, they argue and everything else, but ultimately they love each other as friends, as family. The main character in one of the paths gets adopted, kind of, by one of his friend's parents. I'm sure, I hope most of us had that instance where you would always hang out at a friend's house and the parents kind of adopted you, as it were. And, they were interested in what was going on with you in your life. I know my mom and my dad adopted like two of my friends. And it was one of those things where they would just come over to the house even if I wasn't home. And they'd be like, oh, what are you doing here? True story. My friend literally goes, oh, I was in the area and I had to take a dump. Like, and he made himself a sandwich and he left. Like, who cares? But there is so much love and care in these characters. Even in the writing and the localization, it's all fun and games. It's funny, it's silly, it knows when to be serious. And you really see this protagonist go from this person who's basically given up on family to becoming part of one and not even realizing it. And that being said, I only made it through 2 routes because after that it just got emotionally way too much. But it was so good. I really enjoyed it. And I'm not the biggest fan of slice of life stuff, but this one, really good. Matter of fact, I watched Lost in Translation right afterwards. I've never seen this movie. And I'm a huge Bill Murray fan, which makes no sense why I have never seen this movie. And it's kind of the same thing. Ultimately, it's just what happens. Like, there's a little bit of a plot. There's a little bit of a twist. But ultimately, it's just what happens. That's what made this really cool. Now, following up to that, I did play through Control, finally. And thank God I was still within the return window because I returned that physical copy and went on the PS Plus version. And I had not played it. No, I did. I think I originally played it or I borrowed it or something on the PS4 Pro. It was Pro or base model, I can't remember, but the game looked horrible and ran like shit. On the PS5, it looks great and it runs very well. You get a choice between optimized for 60 FPS and then the ray tracing mode and everything else, which looks phenomenal, but ultimately I went with the FPS. It still looks good, but I think in general, Jesse, the main character, really benefits from having 60 FPS movement. I was having a lot of difficulty with the gunplay to start. I haven't played an action game in a while. That was my excuse. And as time went on, I got better at it. But ultimately, it's really good. I would say it's probably their best game since Alan Wake, from Remedy, that is. I liked Quantum Break. A lot of people didn't like the whole TV show thing. I loved it. I thought it was great. I think at the time I was watching The Following with my fiance, which we never finished. But this, I think, really took a lot of like the X-Files, Bureau, XCOM, the Bureau sort of thing into consideration. But the biggest downfall this game has is all of the lore is phenomenal and it's all locked behind random collectibles and pieces of paper. It's not actually shown, it's read. And yes, Skyrim's been doing this for years and there's way too much to show, and so they have to tell you. I get all that. But in a game where you're basically stuck in some sort of like interdimensional crossroad, oh man, they could have killed it so much. I don't know if it was money. I don't know if it was time. I don't know if it was scope. I don't know if it was 505. But there was just so much stuff they could have shown, so much stuff they could have done with it, and it would have just blown me away even more. The good news is, though, despite all that, the game is outstanding. What bits they do tell you in the cutscenes does make you curious and does make you want to look for those collectibles. It does make you want to take a break and just read through walls of text. And I don't say that sarcastically. It actually does make you want to do it. The live action movie stuff that Remedy is known for is all in there. It's all well and good. It's all fun, but why did this game have such difficulty to start? Honestly, I think it was just because of the way it performed. And we're seeing that again with Cyberpunk. And I don't know. I don't want to talk about that. Everybody's talking about it, but apparently they got hacked, which is a whole other to do. But I really enjoy Control. I think it's their best game since Alan Wake. Play the DLC. I started it and I didn't finish it, but based on what I read about it, definitely play the DLC. The game itself is, I would dare say, it starts off where you're kind of underpowered, but as you go on and you start to power up a bit. Now, the next game I haven't finished, but I'm playing it right now, and that's Forgotten Anne, and I'm playing it on the Switch. And I don't know how the fuck I missed this. I must have bought this digitally, when did it come out? 2018? Probably bought it around then. I didn't even realize Limited Run had a physical release because this game has me written all over it. Puzzle platforming, traditionally animated. It's like Puppeteer. Like this is childhood, And I'm like, why didn't I buy this? I have no idea. Thank God there's a Japanese physical of the PS4 version, because apparently it's worth like $100 and some odd on eBay for the Switch version. But anyway, I digress. This game is great. It's a puzzle platformer. Basically, Forgotten Anne exists in this realm. I haven't finished it yet, so I'm just going to give you the gist. Where basically, if you've ever lost a sock, where did the sock go? This forgotten realm, and apparently she ended up there. And you're surrounded by all these other inanimate objects that have been given life, kind of like a la Brave Little Toaster. And they all live in this, presumably, British town. And just go about their daily lives. And there's a whole rebel alliance, because obviously some inanimates, I guess, want freedom. And some folks want to figure out how to get back to the real, quote-unquote, world. Anne is there, and, Anne is human, which is a big to-do. And you don't really know her origin. And I haven't finished it yet. I'm on the 3rd act, and I think there's 4 acts total. But in terms of the platforming, it's a puzzle-based platformer. So think of it like a Prince of Persia, but no death, very forgiving, no combat. It's very much like a walk around, enjoy the atmosphere, solve the puzzles, move on to the next screen. I wish there was more full animated cutscenes, which there aren't, but it is fully orchestrated, and I think it's a legitimate orchestra, actually. And the voice actors are really good, too. I swear I heard John Young Bosch, but anyway, it's a really enjoyable game, and I really don't know how I missed this. To my knowledge, it's on everything. I think it's on iOS, too. It's not a very heavy game graphically, but I find it enjoyable. It has I feel like this is going to become its own genre. Studio Ghibli appearance, kind of like how there's Souls-like. Now it's Ghibli-like. Has that aesthetic going to it, but this reminds me of the Felix the Cat movie. If you've ever seen that movie is trippy. It reminds me of the Brave Little Toaster, and also a little bit of Studio Ghibli, I would say. Now, that's pretty much it for this month. Coming up at the end of the month, I'm going to be playing Bravely Default 2. And then following that, I'm going to go right into Cold Steel 3. The reason why I'm spacing it out is because in hindsight, I realized if there's 4 quarters in a year, I could technically finish the whole quadrilogy by doing 1 per quarter. And that way I still free up a ton of time for me to go through the rest of the stuff and everything stays fresh. So considering I just finished Cold Steel 2, I think it was last month, I'll be starting Cold Steel 3 presumably in March/April. So everything's still fresh and I can just kick it off from there. And then following that, I know Persona Strikers comes out, I think today, if not tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to be playing that immediately, only because, I don't know, I think after Ys, I've kind of got the button mashing thing out of the way. But I was also looking at Twin Mirror, which is another one of those Don't Nod games, the Life is Strange people. I didn't even know this thing came out. Apparently it came out in December, so it's on sale on PSN, so I bought it, and I presume I'll play that with the fiance at some point. Anyway, I've been Alex, and I'll see you all on the next one. Take it easy.